If you read the Convention on Genocide, there is no question that what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocide. We're erasing a civilization. 90% of the people in Gaza have no homes to go back to. They've been destroyed. Israel is now leveling half of Gaza. There are no schools, there are no universities, there are no public buildings, there are no libraries. Mosques are being erased, churches were hit, roads, infrastructure, water, electricity. They have created a reality in Gaza in which people, human beings, cannot live. That is genocide, and that's what Israel is doing in Gaza.
What you said there draws my attention to one of the most evocative sentences in your essay. It's almost right at the end. You write, and I'm quoting you, Israel is becoming the most hated country in the world, and Israelis will continue to feel less welcome wherever they travel. Has Israel become a pariah state?
If it hasn't become one yet, it's definitely on the fast road to becoming a pariah state. I think this is very true. It pains me, physical pain I experience when I admit to what Israel is doing and what Israel is becoming.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. One would think the brutal facts from Gaza would sit heavily on Israel's conscience. Nearly 60,000 have been killed, close to 150,000 have been injured, the Strip is devastated, and now mass starvation stalks the land. But most Israelis are indifferent, many are even unconcerned. That makes my guest today exceptional. In a recent cri de coeur, he's expressed his deep anguish and now wonders, can he still call Israel home? He also accepts it's becoming the most hated country in the world. Joining me now to talk about how he views Israel is Gershon Baskin. Dr. Baskin is the Middle East Director of the International Communities Organization and the negotiator who secured the release of Gilad Shalit from Hamas custody in 2011. Dr. Baskin, in 1969, when you first came to Israel, you considered it home. Now today you write, Israel is rapidly becoming a foreign land to me, a place that I will not want to call home, a place that I cannot call home. Am I right in saying this is a cry of anguish, what the French call a cri de coeur?
It certainly is, and I'm not alone. Many of our friends, my family, my children are feeling the same sense of despair with regard to the future of this country and wondering if this is a place that we want to continue living in. For me, I have no other place in the world that I call home and no other place in the world where I feel that I have a mission of something to do. Even though many of my friends at my age have retired from their careers, I can't imagine retiring from the work that I do of trying to continue to build bridges between Israelis and Palestinians and see that we arrive on the safe shores of peace between the two peoples who share this land, who must learn to live together in mutual respect and dignity and recognition of the national rights of both peoples to be here.
But despair and disillusionment is steadily setting in.
Right, but despair is not a working plan. Despair is something that I have to respond to through action. So I have not given up. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm not packing up my bags and leaving. I'm committed to staying here. One of my sons, as I wrote about in the article, asked for me to put some red lines on the table. When we reach those red lines, that I say I can never live here anymore. And I did that. One of those red lines, as I wrote in the piece, is very easy. If Ben Gvir, our right-wing, racist, fascist politician who should have never been elected, should have never been allowed to run by the Israeli election laws, if he were to become prime minister, I could not live in this country. And I also wrote something much more difficult, which, because it's much more likely to happen, that is if our current prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is reelected after everything we've been through, after October 7th, after all the lies, after agreeing to bring into his coalition political parties that should be outside of the law. If he is reelected, then this country, in my mind, is not repairable. It's beyond repair.
Of Israel today, you write, and I'm quoting you, Israel is committing war crimes in Gaza. Israel is committing war crimes in the West Bank and Jerusalem. But you also poignantly add, yet Israelis don't want to know. I think that many of them have no regrets and are happy to see the suffering of the more than 2 million Gazans. What does this response indicate? Is it indifference and heartlessness? Or is it the hunger for revenge for what happened in October 2023?
I think it's first and foremost the hunger for revenge, because Israelis are still living in trauma. To a great extent, Israeli society has not moved beyond October 7th. It's replayed every single day in the media with the stories being told of October 7th. It was such a traumatic day for the history of this country, for Jews in general, looking back at our own history, that it's very difficult to move beyond that. But it's also the complicity of our media, who don't show us the reality of Gaza, so that we can buy into the propaganda of the government, that the stories that are being told of hunger and of mass killing in Gaza are made up as AI, it's false, it's fake news, it's driven by Hamas and other haters of Israel. So many Israelis don't confront it because they don't see it, and because they're being told other information. The whole new story that we're hearing, that the pictures we're seeing of starved babies in Gaza are generated by AI. They're not real. It's all fake news. It's difficult to confront when reports come out of the US government saying that the hunger stories are real. But the Israelis are not seeing that. There are very few media outlets that are actually publishing the stories proving that the hunger reality in Gaza is something that is real and Israel is responsible for.
But you know, as you point out in your essay, Dr. Baskin, it's not just in Gaza. You write, hatred against Arabs in Israel has reached a new peak. Violence against Palestinians is all around us. And I have to ask you, is this racism? Is it an Israeli form of apartheid?
It's certainly a reflection of the apartheid that has existed in Israel for many, many years, where we have two separate legal systems for different parts of the population, of the Palestinians living in the West Bank under a whole different set of laws who don't enjoy democracy, Israeli Palestinian citizens who are second, third class citizens in Israel, the attempt by the government of Israel to oust a member of parliament, Ayman Odeh, who is one of the strongest voices in this society for coexistence between Jews and Arabs in this land, trying to oust him as an elected member of parliament, and 85 or something like that members of the parliament out of 120 voting to oust him. This is just an indication of how off the rails the society is moving.
But you know, you have a very telling description of the situation in Jerusalem. You write it, I'm quoting you, Arab workers at a Jerusalem cinema are violently attacked on camera with cries, "Death to the Arabs," and people casually watch as they walk by as if this is a normal and acceptable event. Arab bus drivers are beaten by Jewish passengers and then arrested by Ben Gvir's police for trying to defend themselves. How common and how frequent are such incidents?
I don't think they're that common, and they are brought into the media, into the mainstream media, so the public sees it. But I don't think anyone is shocked by it. These are the kind of events that should shock a society, that should be a wake-up call for the society. These acts are not being condemned by the political leaders of the country from the ruling coalition. And many, I think that many people see it, as I wrote in the column, see this as a normal event. What's wrong with it? These are Arabs, they're traitors. We're at war. And these are people who identify with the enemy, and they're living in our midst. So that's the way that many Israelis, certainly not the people that I'm associated with, but perhaps half of the society, maybe more, think about Arabs, Palestinians in general. You know, the irony of it is that after the Abraham Accords, more than 1 million, probably 1.5 million Israelis have visited the United Arab Emirates and love it. They go to Dubai, they go to Abu Dhabi, and these are the good Arabs. These are the modern Arabs. These are the moderate Arabs, the ones that we can live with. But the Arabs that we do live with in our own neighborhoods, in our own backyard, are primitive, are Islamist fanatics, are people who threaten our existence. And there's a great disparity in the way that the society looks at them.
So the Arabs that Israelis live with are regarded as second-class citizens, as lesser people, as inferior to Israelis and Jews.
I don't think that people would put it in that way, but the way that they are treated by the society and by the legal mechanisms that exist in the society treat them as second-class citizens. It's evident in policy. I'll give you an example. 21% of the citizens of Israel are Palestinian Arabs. There is not one industrial zone in any Arab community in the state of Israel, which means that Arab citizens of Israel, in order to find decent jobs and work in industrial zones, and today industrial zones are not textile plants, they're high-tech parks. They're places where the better jobs are found. Palestinian citizens of Israel need to travel outside of their communities. Now, that's not a terrible thing, but what is terrible is that the revenues generated from the local taxation on those industrial parks go to the local Jewish communities, not to the local Arab communities, which means that there's a great poverty disparity between Jewish and Arab communities in Israel. This is something that's built in as a matter of policy. So even if you have a town like Kufr Qasim, which is a very large Palestinian Israeli community in the center of Israel, there is a huge high-tech park and shopping center 500 meters from Kufr Qasim. When you leave Kufr Qasim, you pass through it. But the industrial park and the shopping center belongs to the local Jewish community, which is a bit further away, so that the local taxes go to the Jewish community, not to the Arab community.
What you're describing about the way local taxes are described is nothing short of discrimination.
It is discrimination, exactly. What should be in the state of Israel is that when you have situations of these industrial parks or shopping centers that are in between communities, the tax revenue should be divided equally between all the communities who share it. This would be a fair way of distributing tax money in the country, but it doesn't work like that in Israel.
Let me pick up on something you spoke about very eloquently a little earlier in this interview. It's the biggest story at the moment coming out of Gaza, the starvation that is happening. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people are starving. Many of them are children. The images that we've seen on TV and social media have shocked the world. There have even been WhatsApp memes that compare starving children in Dachau and other concentration camps in the early 40s with starving children in Gaza. And the caption says, "Never again is happening now." When that is seen in Israel, does it shake the Israeli people, or do they ignore it and simply brush it aside?
There are people like me who are shaken by it, definitely, who can't live with it. We can't sleep. There's no air to breathe. But I think that there's a large number of Israelis who see those images and say this is fake news. They don't believe it. You know, I remind people that the Convention on Genocide, the International Convention on Genocide, was drafted by the international community after the Holocaust. It was a response to the Holocaust. There is no one more than the Jewish people who would be sensitive to what genocide means. And the entire world believes that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza today. And yet the Israelis only have one perception of what genocide is, and that's the Holocaust. And it's true, there aren't death camps and there aren't extermination gas chambers, and we're not burning the bodies of those killed, and 6 million Jews who were killed in World War II and the Holocaust is not what Israel is doing in Gaza. It is not the Holocaust. But if you read the Convention on Genocide, there is no question that what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocide. We're erasing a civilization. 90% of the people in Gaza have no homes to go back to. They've been destroyed. Israel is now leveling half of Gaza. There are no schools, there are no universities, there are no public buildings, there are no libraries. Mosques are being erased. Churches were hit. Roads, infrastructure, water, electricity, they have created a reality in Gaza in which people, human beings, cannot live. That is genocide, and that's what Israel is doing in Gaza.
You know, you make a deeper point as well, Dr. Baskin. You say everyone in Israel, the country as a whole, shares responsibility and, in a sense, shares the guilt for what's happening. You write, and I'm quoting you, Israel's media is complicit in these war crimes. The Israeli public is responsible, and we cannot escape our responsibility. It's not just the army, the police, and the government. These war crimes are being done in my name, in our name, in the name of the people of Israel. We cannot be silent. But with the exception of a few voices, yourself, people like Gideon Levy, the impression the world has is that Israel is silent. There is deafening silence from Israel, maybe self-denial, but silence nonetheless.
There are beginning to be demonstrations in Israel around the country with people who are holding up pictures of dead children from Gaza, of people holding up pictures of the demolition that's been taking place in Gaza. Just yesterday in the city of Haifa, the police arrested 24 people who were demonstrating against the war. This is also something unheard of. A country which calls itself a democracy, where free speech is something that should be sanctified here, and people are being arrested for demonstrating against the war, calling them a risk to public safety. The police come and tear down the posters and placards that people are holding when they're calling for an end to the war or pointing to the starvation or the war crimes. But there are more and more of these demonstrations that are taking place. I go every Saturday night in Jerusalem to the demonstrations organized by the hostage families, and more over the last weeks, we have heard the main speakers of these demonstrations talking not only about the plight of the hostages, but of the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza, of the need to end the war, not just to return the hostages, but to end the killing and to end the destruction. So more and more voices are being raised. And while the demonstration in Jerusalem is attended by several thousand people, it's not 100,000 people. The demonstrations that are held in parallel in Tel Aviv bring 30,000 or 50,000 people, not 200 or 300,000 people. But I think that more voices are being raised in recognition of what's happening. Part of it might be a response to the inevitability of Israelis facing the responses of the international community to what's going on, whether it's a cruise ship, an Israeli cruise ship that's refused to be docked at a Greek island, or youngsters going to a summer camp who were removed from a flight going, I don't remember where they were flying to, or Israelis who love to travel or going around the world and are being told by their own government, don't speak Hebrew in public, don't wear any signs in Hebrew showing that you're from Israel, play down the fact of where you come from, don't be too out in public with it. This is a response to the international community now. Israel deals with it in a way that tries to deflate its importance by simply calling it anti-Semitism. There is anti-Semitism, but I think that most of what we're experiencing is the disgust by the international community of what Israel has become and what Israel is doing.
You know, what you said there draws my attention to one of the most evocative sentences in your essay. It's almost right at the end. You write, and I'm quoting you, Israel is becoming the most hated country in the world, and Israelis will continue to feel less welcome wherever they travel. Has Israel become a pariah state?
If it hasn't become one yet, it's definitely on the fast road to becoming a pariah state. I think this is very true. I was in a European country, Albania. It was very surprising when I told people I was from Israel. They greeted me. They were very happy. It's the kind of response that you don't get anymore. You travel anywhere in Europe, you travel in different parts of the world, and the responses that you get when you say you're from Israel are very negative. There are places, a lot of places in Asia where this is not a key issue and people are not focused on it. There are other problems that people are focused on it that Israelis still go to and feel welcome, but it's going to spread to those countries as well. A lot of Israelis go to India, a lot of Israelis go to Thailand. And while there aren't huge pro-Palestinian demonstrations like you might see in Barcelona or in Madrid or in London, the sentiment, the feelings against Israel are negative feelings about Israel are growing around the world.
You know, I heard you say in this interview that more and more people are speaking out, more and more people are becoming troubled by what they see, what they hear, what they learn. Tell me, how do people respond, the people around you, your friends, your neighbors, your acquaintances, when you share your thinking, when you share your sentiments, when you say to them the sort of things you've been saying to me?
Most of my friends, the people that I associate, have opinions like me, and they're inspired by my writings and inspired by the things that I do and support me very strongly. On the other hand, there are also people who think that I'm a traitor. I had an argument with someone who's a publisher of a kind of right-wing news site that used to publish my articles, who 2 days ago said to me, I'm either a voice for Hamas or a self-hating Jew. Those are the only two choices. You can't be anything else. And I simply removed him from my list of people who received my articles, because why should I enter into an argument with a person like that who calls me these horrible names? I said to him, I'm neither a voice for Hamas nor I'm a self-hating Jew. I'm a concerned Israeli patriot who's concerned with the future of this country and want to set us back on the right course.
Absolutely. You, I think, touched on this in your essay. You say such people would believe the following: if I wasn't Jewish, they would call me an anti-Semite. But since I am Jewish, they will label me a self-hating Jew. That's how you're seen, a self-hating Jew.
I guess that's how some people see me, or some people see me as a traitor. I have received talkbacks, and people have written to me and say, you're a traitor and you know what happens to traitors. These kind of threatening remarks. I don't feel threatened in the society. I know I've been doing this work for 47 years and people know me. I appear on Israeli television almost every day in the Israeli media, in radio, in print media. People know me, and I have a track record of what I guess would be called integrity. So people have some kind of respect for me, even if they don't agree with me. And that gives me the ability to continue to be honest and talk truth to power and to say what I believe is really going on, even if people don't agree with me.
You know, side by side with everything we've discussed, there's also another aspect of Israeli society that you write about in that essay. You believe it's become violent. You write, how can it not be so when so many hundreds of thousands of us do what they do in Gaza? Violent behavior, anger, frustration, and guilt do not stop at the border. Our country is being overtaken by the ugly, the unjust, the criminal, and hate and fear. Are people around you conscious that Israel itself is changing and transmogrifying into a different country compared to what it used to be and what it wants to be?
I think people are aware of it. They don't necessarily draw the linkage between what we're doing in Gaza and what happens, for example, on the roads in Israel. It's very dangerous to drive on the roads of Israel. Israeli drivers were always aggressive, and now they're even more aggressive and less tolerant. And the roads in Israel are more crowded than ever. There are more cars on the roads than ever. And personally, I try to use public transportation as much as I can, not only because of the horrible traffic, but because I feel a lot safer going on a train than taking my car out on the roads of Israel. It's a reflection of what we're experiencing. People have very short tempers, and people are agitated. People are not sleeping. So many people describe the situation that there's no air. There's no air to breathe. We're suffocating here because of the reality. This is the longest war that Israel has ever fought. The Israeli army was never constituted as an army that can fight a long war like this. It's draining our economy. Even though the macroeconomic data, it doesn't show that, certainly the microeconomic data does. And it's a very difficult situation. This war has to end. And at some time down the road, we're going to have to face the truth by looking in the mirror and taking responsibility for what we've done. But we're also going to have to take that and understand that we have to move forward and make peace with our Palestinian neighbors. The step that's being launched by President Macron, the first G7 nation that's going to recognize the state of Palestine, is an important step, not because it will change the reality of the Palestinians. It won't. Palestine will still be occupied by Israel, but it's setting a course, a roadmap for the future, which we cannot deny the existence of the two people in this land of almost equal numbers, who have to recognize that no one's going anywhere. And the only solution here is to recognize the mutual national rights and legitimacy of both people to be here. This is what I've dedicated myself to doing. And this is what enables me, I suppose, to continue to live here on a daily basis.
Macron has made clear that in September at the UN, France will recognize Palestine as a state. The British Prime Minister is under enormous pressure, a lot of it from within his party, a lot of it from civil society, to recognize Palestine. Do you think he should?
And he definitely should. I get so angry when I hear these leaders saying we will do it when the time is right. When is the time right? It should have been done many years ago. I don't know how any country in the world can say that they support a two-state solution but only recognize one of the states. This makes no sense to me. This is the kind of duplicity, the kind of self-lies that needs to be wiped off our politics. If you support a two-state solution, then recognize both states. It's not going to weaken Israel, it's going to strengthen Israel, because Israel's survival and existence, its ability to be a nation worthy of calling itself a member of the community of nations, is based on its ability to make peace with its Palestinian neighbors.
And then what do you say to Marco Rubio, who said that Macron's decision to recognize Palestine is reckless, thoughtless, and dangerous?
I think that the current Trump administration, including Marco Rubio, will go down in history as a very nasty, ugly footnote. I hope that this is not the future of the United States, when people like this are the most important and powerful people ruling the world today. I don't want to go into too much talking against Donald Trump, because in a very bizarre kind of way, Donald Trump could be our hope as well here for ending this war. He has said that the war needs to end, and he is the only person in the world who can actually tell Netanyahu to end the war, and Netanyahu cannot say no to him. So I don't want to smash Donald Trump too much, because I'm hoping that he will save us from ourselves.
My last question, Dr. Baskin, and I want to deliberately repeat something that you said. I wrote it down as you said it, so I'll repeat it verbatim because I think it's such a powerful sentence. When I asked you if Israel was becoming or had become a pariah state, your reply was, if it hasn't become one as yet, Israel is definitely on the fast road to becoming a pariah state. How difficult is it for an Israeli to accept and admit that fact?
It pains me, physical pain I experience when I admit to what Israel is doing and what Israel is becoming. You know, I know hundreds of people in Gaza. I'm helping a few families. It's very difficult to get money into Gaza. I'm helping them. I get WhatsApp messages from young families in Gaza saying to me, I'm hungry. It breaks my heart when I get those messages, and my limited ability to help them, and recognizing also the small amount of money that I can send them is insignificant because there are people in Gaza, Gazans, who are committing crimes against their own people. They were telling me a 40-kilogram bag of flour today cost 1,000 shekels. That's like $300 for 40 kilos of flour to bake bread. This is being done by their own people. But the reality for the 2.2 million people living in Gaza is that they have no homes. I just sent money to a young family in Deir al-Balach because Israel is now attacking Deir al-Balach, a place that they haven't attacked in most of the war because they believe that hostages are in that area. And she's living in a tent with her family, and they had to move their tent, and they didn't have money for a truck to take their belongings to go to some other tent city. This is being done by Israel. And we have to live with that. And it's very difficult.
Dr. Baskin, thank you very much for speaking to me. Thank you very much for sharing your innermost thoughts, your innermost troubles, concerns, and your trauma. I'm deeply grateful. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.